startups and the startup ecosystem in Ghana. So there are multiple things that we are working to, this year, so we can plug in. Let me just say, for example, we are working with MEST to see if we can host a 3-day hackathon during the 3-day event for GDIW. We are also looking to see if we can probably have a deal room kind of session where there are multiple funding organizations that will be available to listen to startups, maybe pitch or have one-on-one conversations for extended support, because that way we are able to now say, okay, we've supported XYZ number of businesses beyond the conversation. So we want to become a platform that not only conveys policy and conversations around digital economy, but we want to be a bit more practical in our approach to connect startups to funding, to connect engagements to policy, and also have ecosystem draw closer to what activities that we put together.
That's an interesting one. It's like this year is going to be another next level for a company like Building Bytes. We've been part of a couple of the events. I think this year will be like our 3rd edition, and I mean we are very excited to be part of it. And I'm looking forward to everything that this year has for the entire ecosystem as well. As we're looking more at the impact, not just the numbers.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that part. So we'll look at the agenda for the day briefly. Thank you very much for the welcome address. We'll look at the agenda for the day briefly.
All right, sure. Thank you very much for having me.
Sure. So we just had the intros and they had the welcome address. So we'll go on to the panel discussion, and then right after that there'll be an audience Q&A, and then we'll wrap it up. We are going straight to the time so that we spend the valuable time we are having here, we spend it, and then we get the insights that we need, and also get closer to the people innovating in our digital economy. So before I bring our speakers onto the stage to introduce themselves briefly, so these are 3 leaders in the space in terms of logistics, EV, and fintech. They are leading companies that are doing a lot for this digital economy, and I would love for them to introduce themselves briefly. So we start from the general manager of Achieve. She'll introduce herself briefly, and then we'll move on to the next one, and we get the conversation rolling. So we are starting with intros for all our 3 speakers. So we'll start with Huzaifa, and then we'll move to Vanessa, and then we'll end with the CEO of Kofa.
All right. Thanks, Yao. My name is Huzaifa Abdulai, General Manager at Achieve by Petra. Achieve by Petra is a digital platform for the distribution of personal finance products, which means that we host a number of different financial products, but we make it easy and convenient for the average Ghanaian to be able to build a financial plan and execute that plan.
That's great. Thanks. That's good. So I put together a couple of slides for each of the speakers. So I went through their website, and then picked one big news, and then I just want you to react to it briefly. I mean, you guys won this. You represented Ghana, and you won this. What are your thoughts before? I mean, we dive into the conversation itself.
Yes, yeah. So this is pretty amazing. We competed with other innovators around the world from over 180 countries, and we're the winners for Ghana in the business and commerce category at last year's World Summit Awards, which was held in India. The Congress was held in India. So we went and we represented Ghana. And the awards was really around local innovations that are really making an impact using technology in their spaces. And so, it was really a feather in our cap. Very proud of the team for all the work that they've put in to give us that recognition globally as well. Thank you.
That's great. So we are coming to unpack the innovation that got us to that stage. Exciting one. So we have Vanessa.
Hi, my name is Vanessa. I'm the CEO of VDL Fulfilment. Now, what we are doing at VDL is we are connecting e-commerce shops to their clients across Ghana by handling last mile delivery. So think about a business in Nigeria or China who wants to start doing business in Ghana. They are not able to do that currently very effectively because they need a partner to be able to handle their last mile delivery in Ghana. So that is where we come in. So the products are sent to our warehouse, we store them, we package them, and then we send them to their customers across Ghana. What we are currently doing also allows us to be able to take payment on delivery across any region in Ghana at all. And so far we've made quite an impact. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. For the impact that you guys are making a lot of it. So we'll have you react to this news briefly. So you guys we moved to a new warehouse, a big warehouse. We launched a new online market. How's that feeling like for the team, for everyone at Video Fulfillment?
Yeah, I think so far moving to the bigger space has come with its challenges, even though we are doing much better in different senses. So previously we were storing the products in the same space as our office, so it was not very convenient to have the team in the same space as the products. And so now that the products have moved to a different location, in terms of us being able to deliver on time and being able to cut down on certain hurdles that we had previously, that has also created a very good impact on what we are doing, as well as the marketplace. So the marketplace is still in the works. We realized that a lot of people ended up reaching out to us to ask us, if I want to order a product, which platform do I go to? And for the longest time, because the businesses we're working with had their own platforms, it was a bit of a challenge to direct them to the different to the different websites of the e-commerce shops. And so now having this platform allows us to give clients and everyone in general visibility to the products that we currently store.
That's great. That's great. So we'll unpack how we got there and then how that
Sure.
is fair as well. So let's move on to Erik.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for inviting me to this. It's a great thing to try and help build ecosystem here in Ghana, which is much appreciated. My name is Erik Nygard. I'm the CEO of Kofa. We are an energy access business and provide energy to homes, businesses, as well as electric motorcycles. And we do this through swappable batteries. So you can pick up batteries at stations we have across Accra. So when your battery drains out or is finished, instead of charging it, you just swap it for a new one and then move on your way. And we are in Accra, launching in Kumasi, and soon to be in Kenya in the next few months.
That's interesting. So we'll have you react to your news card very soon. But before you do that, I was in Kumasi a couple of days ago and I saw the work you guys are doing there. I mean, the swap stations haven't been launched yet, but I see them vantage positions, and that's an excellent work. So we'll have you react to your news card very soon. Yes, that is it. So I mean, you've raised 8.1 million. How's that feeling like? And I mean, you're expanding the network also.
Well, all that happens, the money gets burnt really quick. So it was nice for like half an hour, and then it just starts getting spent. That money was actually both equity, which is shares we sold, but a large proportion of it was actually to buy the capex, so the batteries and the swap stations.
Okay.
So it was a mix of both, some non-dilutive and some dilutive.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
but it was nice for a moment in time. Yeah.
That's great. Great. So we are about to kick the conversation rolling. We are looking at three main things, right? So one, why innovation matters, and then why you three of you started to build in the spaces that you are building, and how you are approaching innovation in your own space. And the next thing also is the realities on the ground. What are the realities on the ground? How is it looking like for each of you and each sectors that you are in? And then we'll go on to the challenges and opportunities that are in the various sectors that you are operating in. And we'll end off with the agenda of impact. So what's the impact on the grounds actually? So to kick the ball rolling, let's get started with how and why the innovation of what you guys are building, why it matters, and why you guys are doing it now. So we start off with Huzaifa, and we can talk briefly about it, and then move on to Vanessa and move on to Erik as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Yao. So yeah, why innovation matters, and why now? We started Achieve by Petra, and I'll say Achieve and Achieve by Petra interchangeably refers to the same app, in 2020. And it came out of a brainstorm session that we had as a team, thinking about how do we connect with the people that we want to serve. Achieved by Petra came out of Petra. Petra is a pensions company, has been around for a while, serving people in the pension space. But we are more than that. We are actually a financial services company that started with pensions, and in the pensions space, you're connecting with people through their employers, right? So the employer comes on, brings on the employees, and that's just what it is. We found out through those interactions with employees that there wasn't a lot of financial literacy. I mean, this is something that we know. Financial literacy is very low. Adoption of products outside of pensions. The only reason why people have pensions is because it's mandatory. Otherwise, they wouldn't. They know that they needed, to save for the future, or where to go, how to go about it. And so all of these realizations made us understand that we needed to put something out there. Now, I remember in that conversation, one of the things that I said was everybody now, below a certain age, is living their lives online. If we want to connect with them, then we have to be where they are. We have to be in the digital space. And that was essentially how the idea for Achieve by Petra came about. We set out to answer one question, which was whether people would invest digitally, remotely, whether they would be able to build that trust. Because coming from the financial services sector, we knew that trust was important. But also in the past, trust had been built based on a physical relationship, brick and mortar relationship. And so could you recreate that trust using digital platforms? And that's really where the innovations came in, because the innovation was less about the securities or the investments themselves. It was about the experience. How do we create an experience that creates trust between us and the user, and encourages the user to adopt the products, knowing that their products are safe, they're easily accessible, and they will get the education to go with it. So for us, the financial literacy bit was also quite important in terms of how we deliver that information. And we sought to do that experientially. So, there were very strategic things that we did, like lowering the barrier in terms of how much you needed to start investing. Because it was online and it was digital, we worked with our partners to make it, as cheap as possible. You could start investing with 10 CDs. And then as you started with that, you started to understand, when we say interest, when we say there's a down day, when we say the mutual fund is doing well, what is a withdrawal, you start to actually experience it and understand what is going on. And over time, build up that knowledge and be able to adopt even more complex products. We also knew that, in order to build trust, we had to deliver on the experience, on what we say we will do. So we don't play with the processes, if you put in your money and we say it will reflect in by this time, you'll see that you put in a redemption, you get your money within the time. And over time, as people went through that cycle, they started to build that trust, they started to build the knowledge, and they also started to build the confidence to be able to build a financial plan for themselves on our platform and be able to execute that plan as well. So that's, how the idea for Achieve came about and why we sought to innovate in the financial services space.
Fantastic. That's a great approach, a three-way approach, looking at trust, looking at experience, and also looking at financial literacy. I think for most of us who are online and who are on Twitter, we can truly tell that the financial literacy part is really working. Because when people have challenges, you see people explaining that, it's because of this and why, that's why this is happening that way, especially with Achieve users. as well. So that's a fantastic one. So move on to Vanessa, who is also innovating in the logistics space as well. So how did you guys get started with innovating in the space, and so far how is it going as well?
Yes, thank you. So we started as a delivery company, and if you're very familiar with the delivery space, you'd realize that a lot of the deliveries that you would end up doing are mostly errand services. And so we started by doing that. Now, in that space, we realized so many issues, we encountered so many challenges, especially to do with managing riders. If you've worked with riders, you would understand what I'm referring to. And so, working in that space, we realized that it wasn't going to be very sustainable to be able to expand beyond just working with a few riders. That was about 3 or 4 riders. And so, as we were facing the challenges like accidents, having to claim insurance, and things like that, we had to really sit down and think about what were the things that were actually working in our services. And at the time, we had started a service that we labeled as warehousing, to be able to keep some of the products within our office so that we didn't have to pick up and drop off from across the different locations in Accra and Ghana. And so we started doing that. Sorry. We started doing that by placing that focus on these businesses to allow us to have that focus and then just explore whether that would work for the market. And when we decided to do that, it meant that we had to let go of our previous model and then place our entire focus on this. And so from 2022, we pivoted into a fulfillment model, which meant that now we're going to stop picking up and dropping off from just about anyone to rather storing the products in a centralized location and then having different players like delivery riders and delivery companies come and pick up from this central location and deliver to specific zones. And so that was how come VDL came about. So far, just this year alone, we've delivered over 100,000 deliveries, and we work with over 350 riders. And so this is across the whole of Ghana. So far, in terms of impact, we've really been able to make headway in the logistics space.
That's great. That's great. 100,000 deliveries. That's I can't imagine. I can't imagine it. Wow, that's excellent. So we'll dive deep into it briefly later on. So Erik, talk to us about how you got started in the space as well.
Yeah, so we could see this massive. I mean, I grew up here in Ghana in the 90s, and I have to say, Accra is not the same city it was back then. It's just a general urbanization kind of acceleration you can see everywhere. There's a lot more people, there's a lot more things happening, and I think it's the same for all cities across Africa, actually. And all that requires reliable and affordable energy to make sure that everybody can participate in this economic rise. So the idea of trying to help support that energy access is what triggered the idea. And we thought you need something cleaner. You can do that today. You need something more affordable. You can also do that today. And because batteries have now come down to a level in price, they can actually compete directly with the cost of petrol. And so we saw that as the big position. How do we make energy really accessible, really affordable, where we can compete with petrol and where we can provide power if the likes of ECG goes out, because that reliable power is needed for people to go about their business and lives. So that was the first thing we saw. The second thing was that there was a rise in motorcycles in most cities, and a lot of them doing either delivery or like logistics, or even the Okada segments. And we saw an opportunity there to provide them with this cleaner, more affordable power. And so one of the kind of main sectors we focus on now is delivering that energy to motorcycle users, but as well as micro businesses that need it to have a reliable power access point. And I think the crazy thing is that this is just a massive market. I mean, in Ghana alone, we estimate that motorcycles spend easily somewhere between $300 to $500 million US per year just on petrol. Never mind adding generators and all these things. When you look at Africa at large, sub-Saharan Africa, not even Northern Africa, the estimate's about $30 billion a year. So the opportunity is just immense. And you can actually provide all that at a more affordable cost to all the people that use it. So that was the big opportunity that we saw, and that we then started to try and innovate around.
That's great. So there's one thing that's cut across all of you guys. So you all, I'll say you are all early stage enterprises, right? Most of you 3 years, 4 years, and it's like a new era of building. I just want you guys to talk briefly about some of the hardest things or some of the hardest realities that hit you guys that you didn't expect in this stage of building, right? What are some of the things that was very surprising for you when you started building in our digital economy? So any of you can go first. So I'm throwing it out there.
Sure. I mean, I can go. So financial services is a highly regulated space. And so one of the key challenges that, we experienced was just a lack of clarity in our position, right, in the regulatory space. And I think we are still working through it, but we have a lot more clarity now in terms of how we operate. But in the beginning, it was a little bit difficult figuring out, okay, who needs to, because when you look at the banks and they have an app, it's a bank app, right? So the bank is regulated, the app is regulated, or it's a fund manager's app, and if the fund manager is regulated, the app is regulated. But a third party app that is sort of curating products and creating a bit of a confluence between users and these products and creating experiences for them to be able to access these products was kind of hanging within the space. And so figuring out the regulatory bit of it was a bit tough for us in the beginning, but we were able to work through that. I think that would be the one that I would highlight as a challenge.
Yeah, I think I'll go next.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so in terms of VDL, so when we started, as always, it's like you're having the first mover advantage, sort of. So because no one has actually built a fulfillment solution in Ghana before we started, right? And so we were really building out of nothing. We could have decided that when we were starting the fulfillment solution, we could have worked with maybe an already existing order management platform that would help us to manage the riders, that would help us to manage the orders. And then we could have also decided that in terms of our inventory, we would work with a warehouse management system to be able to work through all the systems and be able to deliver to customers. However, measuring long-term impact of working with these different platforms that were not going to be ours meant that we're going to end up spending a lot to be able to start. And so, really looking at the cost element and us being able to scale very quickly with our technology, we decided that instead of going for already existing platforms, we would build our own solution. Now, this decision came at a very expensive time, because we had to really now think about what did we need to be able to include on this system to make it very efficient. And so we had to first start by working with very manual processes. In a day, I would say we're working with about 60 Excel sheets for each business that we're working with, just to be able to give them visibility on their inventory, on who was taking out parcels, on where the parcels were. And so in terms of the team, I think at the time we were about 3. And so it was very tough to be able to work with over 30 businesses and then send them Excel sheets every now and then. But being able to navigate through this period has taught us a lot. We didn't just start from building the solution and then trying to figure out what the customers needed. We actually started from nothing, which meant that we were building from scratch. And so whatever problem we had, we included it on the sheet. And then that helped us to translate that into the technology that we ended up having. And so that was really how we were able to navigate through that challenge and problem.
That's great. That's a very extensive one. How many Excel sheets again?
60.
Across 3 people. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Erik, we hear your thoughts here.
I mean, I have to say that the whole idea of a startup is, in fact, just problems. Like, you just wake up every day and just deal with problems. It makes it fun, it makes it challenging, but I'm trying to think of a problem that is. It's a lot of them, honestly. One in particular that jumps out at me is when we came here, as part of doing the energy access and the batteries, we also had to co-develop with a large OEM out of China an electric motorcycle, and then present that to users on the ground so that they could use our batteries and our energy. But at the first instance, nobody really wanted to even think about it, because in their mind, an electric motorcycle must be a toy. And so there's in their heads, they're like, there's no way. Yeah. So I went down to like Cap Price, and people were selling electric things, but they in fact were toys. And so the user segments kind of thought, well, if you are having an electric motorcycle, it must be a toy. Whilst in reality, it's a far more powerful machine. Well, it's not even a machine, it's an electric machine, I guess, than a petrol bike. And now they use it, they love it. But getting over that hump initially was at times quite funny, and I understood it, but also very difficult to convince people that it is good, it's quality, and you'll get what you expect out of it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So we've spoken a lot about some of the challenges that we've all experienced whilst we are starting in those various spaces, right? Now I want us to talk about the Ghanaian tech ecosystem, right? From your own various point of views, in terms of from the EV point of view, from the logistics point of view, from the fintech point of view. As Huzaifa said earlier, I mean, in the fintech space, when you are building, your first person you're optimizing for is your regulator. Once you figure that part out, you are in the market. In the logistics space, Vanessa, as you said, I mean, building in the space, there was like a playbook to follow on, and then you had to like build everything, and then build the systems in-house, and then build on top of that. Erik, as you mentioned, the EV space, I mean, it was a new thing you had to introduce to the entire digital economy as well. Right? I want us to talk about the Ghana's digital economy from your own point of view. How do you see the space, and how do you see it generally from a fintech point of view, from the logistic point of view, and also from the EV and the green energy point of view as well?
Well, maybe I'll jump in first this time. So I guess the lucky thing for us is that at a like government policy level, everyone, previous government and even this government, is very supportive of trying to combat climate change, and therefore they are supportive at a policy level of EVs. So I think that sets a good tone, I guess, at a very high level, that there is a willingness to want to move in this direction. I guess all the subsidies or things they could do to help it get there aren't there yet, but they are looking at these kind of things. So I think at one level, very good. I think the other thing is that because electricity can be really digitized, there's a lot of need for talent in our business across electronics, electrical engineering, software engineering, embedded software engineering, data architecture. Like we spread ourselves across quite a number of very distinct engineering areas. And the one thing that I have found very well, I guess let's say positively surprising, is that the ecosystem has the talent for these things. And so I was concerned in the beginning that because a lot of like our industry isn't exposed here, the talent hunt might be difficult. It is difficult, but the talent actually is here and of very high caliber. This is engineers and many other areas of our business. So I feel like that the tech ecosystem in Ghana and even across Africa is really strong, which is really great for people trying to start businesses. So this has been a really great thing that I have experienced over the last 3 years, I have to say. Now, what I do wish, and I kind of like what you guys are doing, is that I feel in the ecosystem there isn't enough community and engagement between startups. And so that is one thing that I feel maybe is a little bit lacking, because I think there's a lot we could learn from each other in building out these kind of businesses, which is why this is so great to do. Yeah.
That's great. The comment on talent is something I hear a lot, right? We have great talent here locally that maybe we are not tapping into them as much as we should, right? So Vanessa and Huzaifa, I'd love to hear your thoughts on your viewpoint on the Ghana's digital economy as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Erik really took one of the points I was going to make, speaking about talent, because Achieve looks like a simple app, but there's actually a lot of innovation, that we've had to do over a number of years before we were even at a place where we could put Achieve out, right? And this is within the Petra company, from processing payments, assigning assets to individuals, units, managing withdrawals, and throughout that process, whilst I was working in that space, we got to a point where we had to build all of our tech from scratch, because the off-the-shelf solutions that we had brought in from other countries just didn't work. They were difficult to manage, expensive to modify, and all of that. And just making sure that we could build something that worked for the Ghanaian populace, one, for pensions, but also we could extend it to administer other products. And so we had all of that back end work ongoing. And then the back end work that needed to be done for Achieve, as well as the experience, the UI, the integrations that we've had to do with payment service providers and other product providers within the ecosystem. All of it has been done locally and by young people. The age profile within the team, I think average is about 24, 25, right? And it's sad, but I'm one of the oldest people in my team, and I'm not even that old. So there is a lot of talent. What I like, what I'm seeing, and I mean, since I met Yao through Demo Day and all of the stuff that's happening at Building Bytes and with other platforms, is this proliferation of ideas and people believing that it can be done in Ghana. It's not the people in the tech space looking for remote jobs only outside, or trying to figure out how they can go outside to get jobs, but founding startups, starting businesses, in taking their ideas and trying to build them out. I think that that's very exciting. It makes me really excited. I think what can help is easier access to funding. So, like Erik said, building communities, learning from each other, knowing how to access the right sources for supports, so that we can really scale the businesses that we are building, and they don't just remain local champions, but they can really compete on a global scale as well. Yeah.
That's great. Vanessa, we hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, so I think generally a lot of it has been touched on, the talent especially, because we wouldn't have been able to get here without our tech. And so I'll say that the talent has really been something that we've been able to leverage on. One thing that I can say is there's also a lot of opportunity in the digital economy that people are not taking advantage of. And I think that it's an untapped area that if people start to innovate around, definitely will be able to make headway in terms of Ghana. So I think that generally there are a lot of problems to solve. And so I'm generally happy when I see that people are taking up the challenge to start businesses, because the moment you start, you realize that, oh, like if I'm not doing this, someone else would have probably not started to innovate around this problem. And so I think that because the opportunities are vast and because there's a lot of gray areas in the space, like when you start a business, perhaps because no one has started it, the regulations in that space may now be getting developed, like in terms of selling online. Now the policymakers are trying to come up with ways to be able to start taxing businesses and whatnot. So if you are able to start when no one has thought about it, you would have certain advantages that you only would be able to take advantage of to be able to move your business to the next level. So that by the time other businesses come on board, you would have made a lot of headway to be able to be a leader in this space.
That's great. That's great. So there's one thing that cuts across almost all your point of view, and it's around you guys built something. You had to build like an entire ecosystem. I think there's a saying that in Ghana or in Africa, when you try to solve one problem, you end up solving like six of them because they are all dependent on you, right? So I want us to talk briefly about one. If anyone who's trying to build in the Ghanaian space, what's the mentality that they should look at trying to innovate in the Ghanaian digital economy? From your own experiences of one starting to solve one problem, ending up building your entire tech stack because what's on the shelf didn't work for you. Building an entire battery swap, designing the batteries in a way which is eco-friendly, which is suited to our digital economy and our needs. So, what are some of the things that you can talk about briefly in that regards as well?
Yeah, so I'd like to go first on this. So, in terms of the realities on the ground, I must say that even though it is good to want to solve the problem, you cannot solve every problem, like you were saying. Sometimes you have to even go to the root of it. If we had started maybe about 10 years ago as a delivery service, we would have now had to think about how to solve the addressing system in Ghana, which is not our problem. It's something that policymakers and regulators are supposed to come up with to be able to help us to be able to, thrive in the industry. If you go to the Western economies, these things have already been figured out. And so having to want to innovate every single thing would be very impossible. So what I would say is start where you are. You don't need to start at a very magnificent place like saying that I want to build a platform. Start by building a social media page. Start by building a website because perhaps you don't need a platform just yet. You've not built the experience to be able to handle the demand and the pressures that come with having the platform. And so starting in the area you are in would be the best place to be able to start so that you can gather all the data, gather all the feedback, do all your research in the beginning phases so that when you get to platform level, you are not trying to now learn things that you could have learned in your first 2 years or 3 years of existence. So I guess that's what I'll tell any person looking to innovate in Ghana.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in, and I totally agree with Vanessa on that. You should focus on the customer, build for the customer. That sounds simple, but it's not. Sometimes we get hung up on this ideal solution that we've dreamt about in our minds. It's going to work this way, it's going to behave this way. And if you are not careful, you're going to lose sight of the person you are building for. You need to keep them front and center. And as you uncover their problems and you solve those problems, you realize that the company grows with that. Even if you're trying to introduce them to something new, that new thing must solve a basic need or a need that they have, a problem that they have, work that they want to do, and you're solving that. So my, simple advice would be that build for the customer, focus on them and their needs as you build. Thanks.
That's great. That's great. Eric, yeah.
I don't really have much to add there. I think that is the actual, that is a very it's a very difficult thing to do. But focusing on the customer is the absolute key. And it's sometimes even difficult to understand customers that well if you're not them. You know what I mean? So like, I take, for example, all of our product people are very well educated. They've gone to good schools, but the customer here is a delivery rider or an Akata rider, which is a completely different background to what the team trying to assess them is from. And so you have to get very good at trying to really get under the skin of what that particular customer wants and needs, and not throw your own ideas across or try to solutionize for them. And it is actually very hard to do well. And it's a constant even debate inside our office on, are you sure there's a customer point or is it your own idea? And it's not that an idea is a bad idea, but you really have to try and frame it around a customer problem and then solutionize. Much harder said than done. Yeah. So I think, yes, same idea as everybody really on that one.
Interesting. Since we are here, I want us to dive a little bit into that. So was there an instance that any of you thought something, right? You thought this was how customers would take it, and then it went out and there wasn't how the customers took it. Was there any instance like that in your journey of building and innovating in Ghana's digital economy?
Yeah, I think I've had several. So one of the things we tried doing was we realized that if we were to send out a parcel, we had to call customers to let them know that they had a package that was going to be delivered maybe today, and so they should expect the delivery within a time frame. Now, from doing that, we realized that it was taking up so much time, and we thought that we were not a call center, so why not just send SMSs and then expect the deliveries to go through? And so we sent SMSs to all the customers who were expecting to deliver to. And lo and behold, only about 2% or 3% of them actually responded to the SMSs that we sent. And so responding means that they realize that, okay, I'm ready for the delivery, so you can go ahead with it. When we sent the SMSs to the customers, about, let's say, about 50% or 40% of the deliveries actually went through, as compared to us calling the customers to tell them that their parcels were ready. And so having to figure out that insight, or discovering that insight, was really interesting to know that people still want that, face to face interaction. People still want to hear a human voice. We've even tried doing automated calls to customers, and they would end up clicking call me back. They want you to call them back to actually talk to someone. And so I feel there's still a lot of headway we need to make in the space, even though we've made a lot of progress. And with time, I know we will definitely get there.
Wow, these are very interesting insights. Wow. Anyone else want to jump in before we move to our next question?
Yeah. Oh no, you go ahead. Sorry, please.
Sure, Erik. So we've deployed a number of different things that didn't go well. In the very early days, the product that we started with was a money market mutual fund, but it was a standard money market mutual fund. It had a little bit of volatility, which meant that prices could go up and down. And whilst we had gotten positive feedback around people wanting to invest and so on and so forth, we saw very clearly that the average person just could not tolerate volatility, no matter how small it was. Whenever there was a price dip, contributions, engagements, everything went down with it. When there was a blip, everything went up with it. So it caused us to innovate on DigiSave, which has been our flagship product for the longest time, and it's also the most popular, to not have down days. We had to work with the fund manager to make sure that our asset allocation and our investing strategy meant that there were no down days. People were more comfortable with steady, slow growth than growth that went like this, even if it was going up. And that was an eye-opener for us. But focusing on the customer and looking at the data meant that we could make those adjustments to the product so that we could meet the customer need, and then later on introduce more sophisticated product for people who wanted to take on a bit more risk over time. So that was a key learning for us in the beginning.
That's great. Erik,
yeah, we actually have one of these problems almost live at the moment, where customers care about how far a battery can take them. And so that is, if you think of it, because you don't have petrol stations everywhere and that's what they're used to, they still have a bit of range anxiety. Well, if I have a battery, how far can it take me? And so we are trying to be able to show and communicate to customers how far their batteries are actually taking them. And the simplest thing would be, let's show them the amount of kilometers. But actually, when you start talking to the riders, they don't ever in their daily life think about kilometers. True. They look at the thing completely differently. Like, they know maybe from here to Tema what that means as a practical mind map. Or they go, if the battery can last me 3 hours, that sounds okay. And so trying to frame what our product is delivering in the right way is quite an exercise in trying to be able to speak to a customer in a way that would make really quick sense to them. I mean, I have to say, even I don't think in kilometers, but somehow you think that's be the right thing to do because you can measure it. But it's not customer language actually at all. So yeah, we haven't solved that one, but in the midst of it.
Even when what's it called? When the Google Map is advising you, telling you in 3 kilometers, turn right, like you'll be lost. Where's 3 kilometers? Yeah. So now, I mean, we've spoken about some of the things that didn't work in regards to like the customer. Now let's look at some stories in our digital economy. Looking at your various verticals, what was a story or was a moment that you touched the customer with the product that you are building that gave you some sense of fulfillment for innovating in our digital economy as well? So anyone can jump in quickly as well.
Yeah, I have one. Erik, you and I again.
Each other. Yeah, sorry. You please go first.
Okay, thanks. In the very early days, when you have very few customers, you start to know your customers because you're always looking at their data and so on. And we got to know one customer in the very early days. He was running his own business, and he didn't know much about the finance space, but we actually became very close with him. And maybe over a year, he did some testimonials for us, and we got to know him. He started very small and he was consistent with it. I mean, and over time, we've been, really talking about financial literacy and trying to educate our users in a sustained and consistent manner and in a practical manner. A few months ago, he reached out with an issue, customer service or customer support request. What was interesting for me personally to see was just his understanding of the space. He understood his products. He had moved on to more aggressive products, so he had diversified his portfolio. The quality of the questions that he was asking was amazing to see because I knew him personally. And then finally, the growth in his balance and in his transactions amounts was mind-blowing from what it was before and now. And I like to think that we've played a little bit of a role in that, in working with him on how to think about his finances, how to save, even as you're running your business, how to build that discipline, how to diversify, how to manage risk, and how to just, build an emergency fund, a wealth fund towards the different goals that you have. I was, particularly proud, although he was reaching out for a customer service request. I was very proud to have that interaction with him and to see the growth from 4 years ago till now. It was quite touching.
Well, that's
Thanks.
a very touching story. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
background you gave of solving the financial literacy need, and like seeing that growth in someone's life. Wow, that's a touching one. Erik, you love to go next.
Yeah, well, I think it's my answer is probably a little bit. It's quite simple in a way because ours is they're physical. It's a blend of physical products and software, and so we had to go through quite a long journey of R&D on the physical stuff. So co-developing the bike, co-developing the batteries we developed purely ourselves, but you do all this work, you get your prototypes, and then you kind of hope when you release it out there that it'll actually function in the first place, and people will actually use it. You don't know at first instance, and so just the journey of watching people buy these motorcycles and swap every single day as their core kind of income generation, because all our customers are really gig workers. I think that the whole experience is just quite nice to see it evolve and unfold. And so it's almost like you're releasing something into the wild, and you kind of hope it'll at least get a little bit of traction. I mean, we're not huge yet, but the traction we're getting today is telling us that we are on the right path. I just hope we're on a path that's going to scale extremely high. But right now, at least the customers are enjoying using our products and services, which is just a nice thing to see overall.
That's great.
Yep. So I think on my part, I have a number of stories, but I'll just mention two. So I travel around Ghana quite a bit. And so on two occasions in Kumasi, I randomly met some people and I was having normal conversations with them. And the way the conversations were going, some would end up mentioning that, oh, they are frequent buyers online. And so knowing the typical target audience of mine, I knew that, okay, from the way they are talking, it seems like they may have experienced VDL services before. And so I would ask them for their phone number just to check on my system to see if they've actually placed an order with one of our e-commerce shops. And on the two occasions I decided to ask, I realized that these same people I was talking to who I hadn't met before had actually experienced the service. And one of them had just ordered for something the previous day and we had just delivered to him. So he was now asking me so many questions about it. Because he was in the regulatory space. So he was like, wow, he's so happy to know that we are paying our taxes and things like that. So it was just satisfying to encounter such people. Also, in terms of the riders as well, I remember when we started, there were some riders that couldn't even afford a phone, to even talk of a young phone. And this was when we had just implemented our new app, that we had just launched our new app, and we're expecting them to be able to use their phones to update us. And so seeing the rider not being able to afford the phone and meeting him this year and seeing that he's using an iPhone, I realized that, okay, we've actually made very, very good impacts in the lives of different gig economy workers, and also people who are expecting to receive their parcels. So yeah, it's been good impact.
That's great. So I would love to tell us briefly that we are streaming live on Building Bytes on YouTube. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat there, and then we'll read it to our speakers on your behalf. So whilst we are looking at wrapping up very soon, I want you guys to think about the Ghanaian digital economy. In 5 years from now, if you were to have a one global headline about the Ghanaian digital economy, from your own experience, what you've seen and what you are building in your own space, what do you think that headline will say about our digital economy? So I just repeat it briefly. In 5 years' time, if we were to look at the Ghana's digital economy and there's a global headline about our digital economy, what would that headline say based on the work that you are doing for our digital economy?
Okay, so I think my headline would be 80% of brick and mortar shops closed down to being fully digital shops.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow. Wow.
Maybe not 5 years, but yeah, I'm expecting that soon.
Wow.
I think it's something along the lines of Ghana emerging as Africa's digital or technology powerhouse of rock stars, because I can see it happening. I don't usually like these kinds of statements that say, like the Uber of Africa, or the Silicon Valley of Africa and things like that. Yeah, we are the Ghana of Ghana and the Ghana of Africa. And I think in 5 years' time, we will take our place, or we'll have that place of being a place where strong technology and real businesses that can compete globally emerge or have emerged over time.
That's great. That's great. Erik, we'd love to hear your thoughts here before we go into the questions from the community.
I honestly I don't know. Can I say what I hope?
Yes.
Yes.
I feel that let's take Ghana, but maybe it's all of Africa. But if we just say Ghana, I think there needs to be an acceleration of the ability to develop AI on the ground.
Okay.
I think it's too biased towards the West and China at the moment. And I really feel that it's something that needs to click here in Africa. And that includes data centers, includes people, it includes policy direction, but I think it's a very big transformational change. And so my hope is that Ghana would be a leader. And this almost relates to my business slightly, because if we have that, I can do my stuff even better. But that Ghana becomes a leader in developing AI for the African context. I just think it's such a big thing, and I don't think Africa needs to be left behind on this growth path. So in 5 years, I hope to see huge things happening in that area. It'd be good for all of us, I think.
That's great. That's great. That's great. So we have a couple of questions in the chat, and as you are watching us, please drop your questions as well if you haven't dropped it yet. So I'll go on to the first one. It's a very interesting question, and I like that we have a mix of people building for gig workers and also people building for the financial space. So you guys will look at who answer which part of the question, which is coming up. So the question says, how is the gig economy for riders at Kofa and VDL Fulfilment? Do they have insurance? What are some of the benefits and measures that is being put in place for the short-term contracts and stuff like that?
For the riders?
Yes.
Well, I can go here because our business really is just providing the energy to the riders.
Okay.
So even though we co-developed a bike, our bike is being distributed by a partner in Ghana. So we don't actually get involved in the sale or servicing of the motorcycles. That is done via a distribution partner. And then on the ground, a lot of the electric vehicles are actually given to end users via financiers. And so I am not fully sure. I know they provide insurance for riders, but a lot of the bikes are being given out there on like a pay-as-you-go or work and pay arrangement. And I think the companies who provide that layer in things like, making sure you keep your license up to date, insurance cover. Yeah, I mean, we have also provided service to fleet operators, and sometimes they're full-time employees. So I guess they will have their own arrangement, but we don't engage the riders that way. We deliver the energy to make sure that they can power the motorcycles.
Okay, that's
Just
for the clarification.
Yeah, so I'll say Yeah, I'll say that whatever regulatory compliance that the riders need to undergo, VDL does that on their behalf, even though we don't work with them as workers directly working with VDL. So they work as independent couriers who come and pick up parcels and deliver. So in essence, they're actually working for themselves and not for VDL. But then we still try to come in whenever we can to be able to support them. At the moment, we are also working on a savings plan for them so that we can save up some of the monies that they are supposed to be earning on their behalf. So when they need money for maintenance and things like that, we can support them with that money that they have saved to be able to give them a buffer.
That's great. That's great. Are you working with Achieve to do this? I'm
Well,
just
yeah, it's possible. It's possible. I
You
just need
should,
to
you
know what
should.
their terms would be.
okay. Great. Huzaifa, is there anything in the near future you'll be having a product for gig workers as well? Just to add that to the question that was asked earlier.
No, so our product or the platform has really, taking off in the gig space and in the freelance space as well. So,
Wow.
when I spoke about the regulated pension space, it's more the formal worker whose employer is required to do that for them. One of the our customer profiles, right, that we've seen over time has really been even people in the tech space, because a lot of them freelance, they have remote gigs and things like that. So they don't have these structures. And so they've had to build those structures for themselves, and we support them with that so that we can, make sure that as the money is coming in, you are structuring something for your retirement and for investing towards other things. I have a personal dispatch rider who, got my number somehow saved and then saw on my WhatsApp status that I work at Achieve and reached out to me to try and structure something. And over time, we've built a portfolio with him where, as he gets paid daily, he saves
Wow.
daily so that he doesn't spend the money and he's building something for the future. So we have, a lot of our people in the gig economy. In fact, I have tailors, hairdressers, people who work for themselves in what we typically call informal sectors. Their money is not going through the banks per se, and they earn daily. Achieve is usually perfect for them. So this is definitely a conversation that we can have to see how we can structure something for these riders. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So move on to our second question, and it's coming from Francis, and this goes to Erik directly. So he says, "My name is Francis, and the question for Erik: How hard or easy is it? How hard or easy is it to build a tech company in Ghana compared to other parts of the world, other parts of Africa, Europe, or America?"
Yeah, it's a very good question, actually. So I I actually built a startup in London prior to this. And I had an engineering team of almost 60 people there. So it was quite large number of engineers. I have to say that actually the talent on the ground is a complete match to what you'd get, what I would get in London. I mean, so that's the crazy thing, is that you can actually, you sometimes, like, it doesn't, you wouldn't always expect it just like that, but the fact is that it's true. And so I think building tech here, I think as long as you're taking your time to understand back to the customer point and that context around the customer, I think actually building technology startups here, because you've got the talent, is very, very achievable. And I don't think it's the biggest problem is the funding piece, honestly. But to start off and just get going, I wouldn't say it's any harder. The harder thing is access to funding. That is a bit more difficult on the ground. But I think it is also starting to change, because you are getting more Ghanaian VCs pop up. You're getting more African VCs pop up. And so, I've even heard insurance money is starting to go into venture capital in some instances. And so the ecosystem is getting better and better. So, it's a great time to try and launch and build technology startups here in Ghana. So definitely not funding a little bit harder, but ability to actually do it I wouldn't say any different. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. That's an interesting take. Great. So move on to next question, and it's coming from Ima. So, what's opportunities that exist for women and marginalized groups in tech, in Ghana's tech economy, Ghana's digital economy? Anyone would love to go at this?
I mean, if you look at the distribution of genders on the call, there's opportunity. I recently was at an event, trying to remember the name, but it was in partnership with StanCharts, where some grants were given to 10 innovators who were doing, starting their businesses and looking to scale. And they were from all over Ghana. Background doesn't matter. Education, access to information, internet, YouTube, all these platforms, AI, they are really an equalizer. I always tell people now, you don't have much of an excuse, right? The information is out there. You just need to go out there and get it. So in terms of opportunities, I think that there is a lot of opportunity available. What is the problem that you have or that is prevalent in your environment and in your space? And do you have a solution to that problem? Do you want to build a solution to that problem? You can find the supports that you need, make utilize of, the platforms that I mentioned. Social media means that you can reach out to anybody really, and it's your tenacity and your consistency that can help you get the kind of response that you may be looking for. So from where I sit, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for all kinds of people in the tech space. It's really one of the ways where you can really make a difference in your life and in your community if you take it seriously.
That's great. Vanessa, I want to add some thoughts before we move on to the next question.
Yes, I'd like to say that definitely there's a lot of opportunity, but in the tech space where I sit, I've been in several situations where I'm in a room with about 10 men and I'm the only woman. So in those cases, I would say that even though there's a lot of opportunities, you need to be able to take that risk, and be bold about your ideas and the path you want to be on, especially in tech, right? So if technology is your path and you feel you want to innovate around a specific solution, I would advise that you join some accelerators to be able to help you to develop on your solution. Because in terms of technology, a lot of the people who end up building tech are people who are developers and people already in that space, from what I have seen. And so if you have a different experience, maybe you worked and your experience has been in business, has been in, maybe health, I would advise that you participate in accelerators, you join more programs to help you to just widen your knowledge in the technology ecosystem so that you can make better decisions to push your business forward.
That's great. That's great. So we'll take a few more questions and then we'll take our closing remarks, and that'll be it for this section. So the next question is coming from Amma Datsun, and she says, I'm Amma, I run Ako Books Audio. We focus on literacy and digital access through African audio books. For Erik, do you see a similar opportunity for education and literacy? For example, using renewable power devices or battery swapping apps to also deliver access to digital books and learning. So this one is for Erik. So Amma is asking if there will be a need or there will be an opportunity for her users and her customers to use renewable power devices or power or battery swapping apps for delivering her digital books and learning tools as well.
I'd say definitely. I think so today some of our batteries are charged via solar, but actually most of the batteries today are charged via the grid. But it's still a lot cleaner to use that energy than to use, for example, a generator for your backup power. So, but we'd like to get more solar. So to your renewable point, we'd like that all of our batteries at some point in the future are charged via solar or other renewable energy. I mean, in Ghana, you've got Volta. So your actual energy on the grid is cleaner than many other countries just naturally. But solar is what we hope for. And I think, yes, if you don't have, or the lights go out and kids are trying to, I guess, complete their homework or, do other work in the home, having a battery will allow them to keep lights on, keep the fan on, keep the environment nice so they can go about continuously learning. And so there is definitely a advantage there to bring a battery straight into your home to deliver that kind of a service, better than putting a generator right on your balcony or somewhere else. It's going to create a lot of noise and smoke. And so, yes, we think there's definitely an opportunity to find creative ways to help people get access to clean power. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So we'll move on to the next question. We have two more questions, and then that'll be it for this section. So the next question is coming from. Okay. It says, beyond fintech, what other sectors of Ghana's digital economy are ripe for investment but currently overlooked? So anyone want to take this? We know that majority of the investment that comes to this country, most of it goes to the fintech sector. The person is asking, beyond the fintech sector, are there other sectors that are ripe and being overlooked as well?
I mean, I can jump in. There's just endless opportunities. Agriculture can help be digitized. Logistics can help be digitized. Can somebody please digitize the Churchill system? I mean, there is endless possibilities to try and help use digital technologies across the system. I think people just, if they have got an idea they can see, or they're frustrated about something, I'm sure there are ways to improve it with digital products. And so there's a lot of areas. Energy, transport, agriculture, healthcare, so it's a lot of things. It's a lot of places.
Yeah.
So I think logistics is an area that people don't really give enough audience to, simply because all these different industries, if you check what the running line or the similar industry that runs across all these industries, you'll find logistics in all these spaces. And so I think that logistics needs to be empowered. Logistics really needs to be looked at to be able to create more opportunities for people. And people also need to look more into logistics, because once you figure out logistics, a lot of these other industries would have a backbone to be able to develop on.
That's great. That's great. I'm also building in the logistics space, so I've just started, but it's a very interesting space to build in. So we have two more questions to go, and this one says, to Huzaifa, do you see an opportunity in Islamic finance products in Ghana? Do you see an opportunity for Islamic finance products in Ghana? I am a certified Islamic finance expert. I have not seen much products around this in Ghana compared to Nigeria, Kenya, etc.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Something that I am personally interested in and thinking about as well. So our laws, while they allow for what is known as non-interest investments, there's not a lot of clarity in terms of the guidelines for actually deploying such products. but I know that that's work that is being looked into. So that's on the regulatory side. Once those guidelines are in place, you would have these products popping up. But even aside from that, I think there's a big market for non-interest finance products, Islamic finance products, products that run on these laws that try to create more sustainability and equity in the space. And so I am excited to look into that area, and I am. Hopefully within a few years, couple of years maximum, we should start to see some products tailored towards the Islamic finance space as well. It will also be great, like as questions like this come up, to highlight them on platforms where we can ask for, these guidelines to be put in place. Innovate around the space as well. One thing I have learned is that sometimes regulators are late to the game. They are not thinking about that. So it's usually the innovators that lead the way. You build and then you bring them along, and that even makes you a resource, right? In how the guidelines are put together, or even the laws are put together at all. So it's definitely a big need that we need to address in the coming years. And so all the people that are interested in this space, I would encourage them to start work on it, because work is being done on it in other places. Yeah.
Okay. I know I mentioned we have 2 more questions to go, but we'll have 2 more questions again. So someone is asking, how can they access funds as a startup? I want us to just briefly just mention 2 or 1 vehicles that you think a startup founder can use to access funding for their startups briefly, and then we move on to the last question and we get our final thoughts and wrap it up for the day.
I think a lot of this is networking, and I think this is, I mean, it's I think these kind of things you're doing should allow people to connect to then try and refer. So a lot of it is networking. I mean, many funds do have websites you can go to submit pitches. I mean, that could be a straight approach. Checking LinkedIn for the funds that you know exist in Ghana and reaching out cold. Another way, try and make your pitch exciting. Attach something that's quite exciting. And beyond that, on LinkedIn, you can see if anybody knows who you're trying to reach. And so it's a networking thing that really will help that move. But you just got to be tenacious about it and just hammer every place you can find to see if you can make something happen.
Yeah. Interesting. Vanessa, you have raised some funding as well. Any thoughts on this?
Has an impact in whether someone will give you funding or not. The other thing would be, again, to consider going into accelerators, because there are some accelerators that would give you some funding to be able to push your business to the next level. However, before you go for the funding, I'd always like to say that your first investors are your customers, right? And so before you go and look for external funding, please make sure that people are actually paying you and you have enough traction to be able to get external businesses or individuals or venture capitalists to look at what you're doing and to push what you're doing further.
Okay, great. So before we take the last question, I think Erik mentioned the need for networking and meeting people. We are hosting Demo Fridays, this quarter's edition of Demo Fridays. Next week Friday, putting a link to register in the comment section. There's a place to meet people, building the ecosystem, and also see exciting products in the convenience economy as well. So you want to come meet people, that's the place to be. So register and be there as well. So we go on to our last question, and then we take our concluding thoughts and we wrap it up for the day. So our last question goes to Huzaifa as well. Achieves focus on financial literacy is impressive. Could money lessons paired with local language storytelling boost financial literacy and reading literacy as well? That's the question.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Something that we are actively looking into. At the beginning of the session, Yao put up the WSA winners. One of the winners from Ghana, which I'm very impressed by, is Kaya AI, and they do language translation. So we are trying to see how we can partner with them to be able to deliver, to be able to deliver some of the education that we put forth in local languages, but even to enable people who don't speak English engage with the platform as well, because they all need to be able to build financial plans and invest. So absolutely, it's an interesting area to look at.
That's great. That's great. So as we wrap up our thoughts, I want us to speak to people building for our Ghanaian digital economy. So you guys have done it. You didn't just have bright ideas. You went out there. You built the product. You iterated on them. You learned from your customers and you are building for them. You are seeing those amazing stories. For someone looking to build for our digital economy, if the person is here, if the person is looking to come in here, what are your key thoughts or your key suggestions or your key advice that you give them briefly? I think we can do that.
Yeah, I think earlier on Eric said startups is just made up of problems. So you have to be ready to be you have to be ready to fix problems every day as they come up, because that's how you build a business. If it was easy to do, everybody would do it. So it's very hard, and every day there's a new problem, something you haven't thought of. And for me, we are still building. We are literally just a few years old, so we have not gotten there yet at all, but we are still building. So the first thing is just focusing on the problems, fixing them, whilst you're looking at a bigger picture as well. And the second thing for me is what I mentioned before, because I think that, like Eric said again, it is difficult, but you should try to remind yourself every single time why you are building, who you are building for, because you can get stuck in. I read a post yesterday that said the customer doesn't care what your technology stack is, right? They care that the product works. So you will have engineers who want to use this language versus that language, and all of that is great. Build robust systems, create great experiences, but are you solving the customer's problem? Are you keeping them front and center? Are you building for the customer? Once you keep your focus on that and you're able to evolve your product around that, I think with all the other things coming in, you do well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think you literally took the words out of my mouth. But what I'd like to add on to what you said was get ready to fail. So get ready to fail and build on top of that, because no one achieves anything great without going through a failure, right? And so once you fail, just get right up again and try and see what didn't work well. And this time build on top of what didn't work well to make sure that it's successful to serve your customers. As always, your customers are the main focus here. And so whatever you are building should be built with them in mind and not your personal observations or someone's personal observations.
That's great. Eric, we hear your final thoughts.
Oh, okay. I think I would agree with those points quite strongly, actually. And I think the other one that comes to mind to me is that you just need to get really, really good at prioritizing. And to do that, you got to be able to think. You need time to think, to prioritize, to then execute well. If you got a piece of paper that says you got 10 things to do today, you're starting off on a very bad way. I mean, you need to know what is most important to least important. And you need to have a way to think about that. But then you need to prioritize very firmly, and the things you put at the top of the list, make sure they get done on the time you defined. Very hard to do, but it's a skill when you're building and hiring people in a startup that is extremely important. Yeah.
Interesting. So thank you very much for joining us for the first webinar I think this is a first one out of 5 other ones to follow from this. We are very excited to have you, and thank you for also sharing your thoughts for building in the Ghanaian ecosystem and innovating in the digital economy as well. So this webinar was brought to you by Building Bytes and Africa Discourse Channel, and is part of GDIW's Road to GDIW 2025. And we are very excited to have you here. I hope you join the next editions as well. And then most importantly, we hope you register, and we see you in November at GDIW 2025. As Corey said in the opening, there's a lot in store for us to learn about digital economy, and most importantly, know about the innovations and the impact which is happening in the digital economy as well. So thank you very much for joining us. And this has been the first edition of the Road to GDIW webinar. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your weekend.
Thank you. Hey, you
Thank
too.
you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.